Yeah, just flick the bastard away. You don't deserve a guy like that. He's obviously not ambitious. And for him to sit there and say, hey, you're working part-time, you can earn more money to support me. Nah, fuck that. Get rid of him.
In the bin.
That's right. Put him in the bin. Yeah, don't waste your time. Sawadee cup, cup con manacup.
Very nice. Well done. You introduced some of your heritage to the podcast.
Hello, it's Sam.
And I'm Amelia.
Welcome back to Us Duo Podcast. Podcast where we aim to build a better mindset for better relationships.
Yeah, this week on Better Relationships with Your Career, we've actually turned to Reddit and we're going to be doing a Reddit Reacts on some people who have put up some really stitched up situations on Reddit, and we're going to go through it and give our own advice, and would also love to throw it to you guys to see what you would actually give as advice for these situations.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but hey, it's a good way to have that conversation, see what sort of points or viewpoints we come from as an alternative perspective. Let's begin.
All right, so first one, a bit of a common one, I guess, especially nowadays when we're being very transparent about salary and how much people make. So this one, title, I found out I make less than my coworkers. How do I ask the company to ensure we are all paid equally and the same amount? So he said, or she, I'm just only assuming that it's a guy. I found out that I make less than my coworker. How do I ask the company to ensure that we are all paid equally? I've been working on my role for 5+ years, going on 6. And while I don't absolutely love it, I don't despise it either. I am remote, manage 1 employee and work long hours. I feel the company doesn't appreciate me, but I've worked my way up. Recently, I discovered through my colleagues that I am the lowest paid in the group of managers. My colleagues and counterparts all manage people to some degree, but I make less than them. The difference is about $9,000, but with the recent wages now come out to about $5,000. I have no other offers on the table, but it just eats away at me. I work so hard, but don't feel appreciated because I make the least amount amongst my manager group.
Okay. This one seems to be quite a common type of scenario. I've heard this many times in my experiences. It really depends. Hey, I think it really, because we don't really know much about the history of, or one, your comparisons with your colleagues. Because yes, you've been working quite hard for 5 years, trying to develop yourself up to that point. Yes, you do manage one person or people, but then to make a direct comparison to your colleagues that are managers who manage people, it really depends on, well, one, what's their experiences like in comparisons to that, which net the difference in pay gap or difference.
I feel like what this person is feeling is valid to feel like they're not appreciated, but there's a lot of context missing. So what kind of managerial role? Because if you're comparing to other people who just have the name in their title manager, but maybe the role and the responsibilities are quite different, then you can't compare and be one-to-one and be like, oh, they're getting paid $9,000 more, but maybe their title and their role and responsibility is a lot different, and it does require a lot different types of responsibilities where they do, I'm not saying harder work, but just more challenging maybe. And also there's no context in terms of, yeah, like what you said, what else happens in your own responsibility.
Yeah, no, I think if we were to really look at this and assess this from an analytical way, if we were to assume that the managers that you're comparing yourself to are exactly the same in terms of experience, the responsibilities, your targets, your KPIs, everything is essentially the same in terms of metrics, then okay, I definitely can understand your concern as someone that's obviously comparing income. $9,000 is quite a fair bit. If that is of concern, I would organize some sort of one-on-one meeting with your superior manager and actually sit down with that particular person and have a conversation. Now, before getting in there, I would definitely load your ammunition up. You want factual information as to why you're being working your ass off, what you're trying to sell your points to obviously net a higher income or a salary review for that matter.
Well, even showing evidence of where you've helped the company grow or where there's growth in something where you have had contribution into as well, I think those are really valid. And no one wants to feel unappreciated. I've been there, and no one wants to feel unseen, unheard. So sometimes just having the conversation, maybe your manager or your superior just didn't realize or didn't look because they've probably got other things on as well. Not saying that they shouldn't care about their employees, but it does slip away. So sometimes when you take the initiative to be like, hey, look, I want to have a review of my pay, I feel like unappreciated, sometimes they actually appreciate you stepping up and saying that and bringing that to their attention. So sometimes it might sound scary, but actually could go a lot better than you think.
I think the biggest thing to add on to that is don't talk about the comparisons with your colleagues
Mm,
and don't stipulate the fact that what the difference
yeah,
is,
so important.
because obviously that's a privacy matter. It's really just a conversation about you solely. What is different about you? Why should you be worthy of a salary review? And focus purely on yourself, right?
Yeah, and then I saw something in the comments as well. It's like if you have to beg for it, you should go to somewhere else. Like you should just leave. In some extent, I do agree, but I also don't agree because I have been in a position where I've actually negotiated, I think 3 or 4 times within a year, and each time I've actually managed to get a pay rise and also got appreciated and got acknowledged for my work and my hard work. So I don't agree that it's always like a if you have to beg for it, then you should leave. Sometimes it really comes down to your managers and also your work culture. So if your work culture really does value the employees and your manager does really value you and your work and you bring up, they will reflect that. They will be like, okay, sorry, I didn't actually notice this and like thank you for bringing it to my attention, and they will follow through and at least give you something where it would make you happier than feeling unappreciated. And I think similar to what you said, Sam, before, where it said when you talk to your managers, don't compare to other people, but that applies to yourself too. When you're thinking of your self worth and why you're worthy in this workplace, don't compare yourself to other people. Don't be like, because that person gets that much, I should be getting this much. It's really digging down, be like, why am I actually worthy? What is my own skill sets, my own capabilities, and my responsibilities that I'm bringing to the table that really is helping the business? So don't like just leave everyone else around you out of the equation and really think for yourself and answer the question like, why are you worthy?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing too. And look, I guess from my perspective, I've had a lot of colleagues in the past or even in present where I've managed teams. And they come to me asking for pay rises as well. And it's just like, hey, talk to me as your reasonings as to why you deserve that. And then look, if you have been a overperformer, then yeah, man, like the efforts will come with reward. So
And I
manager.
also just going back how you said that you don't have anything lined up or you don't have another job that has a pay that you can leverage off. I think that doesn't matter. I think a good way to get around that is also do your research on what the average wage is in your area and in your expertise as well. That might help. And if it does look lower than the average, then that can also be a good way to get around it.
Yeah, and I think last final one is be realistic with yourself too, because if you're looking at the market and you're saying, okay, this particular job for this experience, this is what you would essentially get as a bracket for income. You've got to compare that to yourself, because if the experience is 5 years but you only got 1 year experience, you kind of have to be a little bit realistic with you and your expectations. So just keep that in mind when you're sort of looking at that.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. So the title of this question is, have you ever witnessed something that should have gotten someone fired at work? So the story from this particular person is, coworker jokingly threw a box at my chest and knocked the wind out of me, and I collapsed. He begged me not to tell anyone, and I didn't. The guy's a weirdo. He talked about how he'd burn insects and start fires, weird shit. He ended up getting in more trouble later on some other reasons, or another crass jokes, sexual comments. Either way, he eventually transferred stores and I never saw him again. This all happened back in 2013 to 2014. Fast forward to early this year. So fast forward to 2023. His store was actually getting a major remodel. And this weirdo fella was actually one of the managers. He was surprised that he was still with the company, let alone in a leadership position.
Mm. So sadly, this is something that I've noticed, that there are a lot of people who are incapable and lack a lot of some of these common sense or just how to be a human being that can actually go so far. So reality is, it's just a sad thing to see, and it does happen. But at the same time, I think if these things are happening, and especially it happened to you, you do need to speak up so that other people are aware. Because if you keep it to yourself, no one else will know, and people might see the nice side or the good side of someone, and will just further go unknowingly letting people climb up these ladders and become, managers or store owners or whatever.
To play devil's advocate, yes, he did something like threw a freaking box at this particular person's chest and knocked him out, knocked the wind out of him. Is the quote? It could have been an honest mistake, but it doesn't really make sense as to why he did that initially. I understand that this guy is a bit of a strange character, but trying to not judge this guy's character uh, just because he burns stuff, it could have been an honest mistake, and that's just me playing devil's advocate.
No, I think like yeah, you can play devil's advocate, but with along with everything else that this guy said, like him being told off with other people for being rude and saying sexual jokes and stuff, I feel like that's borderline harassment. And maybe he just doesn't get the social cues where he can go too far and doesn't understand that. So sometimes speaking up, even talking to him directly, could help him understand that he can't just do this in a workplace and you can't talk to people like this, and really just being honest. Like, I don't really have anything else to say to this one.
Yeah, I think the second part, which I didn't get to finish, was obviously the sexual comments. And I think the first thing I would probably do is talk to the guy directly and be like, "Hey, man, you gotta chill out and not say all these things," or people feeling a bit awkward. And I think it just depends on the conversation once you approach that person. If that person doesn't perceive it too well and basically brushes it off, then that's when I would be taking it to the next level and having a conversation with my superior manager and letting them know what's happened. And I think if you do that, you need timestamps, you need clear documented timeline or story as to that particular event. And that way you can obviously provide that information to your superior, and then your superior will do the next step from there to have discussion with the
Hopefully.
hopefully have that discussion with that particular person directly or take it to HR. But I think that's the thing I would do. If your superior manager doesn't take it serious and sort of just shrugs it off, then maybe it might not be a particular company or place to be worked at or work at.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, sometimes the people that a company hires or like a team hires says a lot about the company. So if they're hiring people or not getting rid of people that are like this, or like even in other ways, maybe they're making a lot of mistakes and they're not choosing not to get rid of them. Not saying that you don't give people second chances. This is like going like the mile after getting doing a lot of mistakes. It shows a lot about the team and like just the work culture. So you just may want to question, like, is this something that I want to stick around with, or should I be looking somewhere else? Because you can only control so much. So once you talk to your manager, you've talked to this guy, you've done all you can, but nothing's changing, then maybe you need to change the scenario and the situation for yourself.
Yeah, in my experience, there's a lot of workplaces that do have these type of characters where, they may be performing quite well, but their attitude is quite shit, like this guy, or he's just weird. If the company doesn't perceive your feedback in that way of applying it, then that's your answer.
Sometimes there is a bit of it where you have to make choices for yourself. You can't really have other people make choices for you. And you, as much as you can rely on managers and other people, the choice in the end is still yours. And you have to think about it and be like, is this something that I want to stick with? Do I want to stick it out? Do I want to stay here? Do I want to move on? Like, you need to consider these for yourself.
Yeah, so that's our feedback to that. And really just take it to whichever direction you feel is best for you at that moment and at that time.
Mm. And then another one is, what is the worst thing that you have witnessed in the workplace? So this is just a prompt. And one of the commenters gave this story. A colleague was eating a chocolate bar, and his boss came up and said, "You're right, fatty. Got enough chocolate." Then laughed and walked away. So rude. The guy had recently lost a ton of weight, and we'd seen him dieting and going on lunchtime walks for months. The poor man's face just crumbled. The boss didn't get any flack, whatever that means, that I know of, but the abused guy put in his notice the next week. I've never forgotten that. It's easy to explain it away as just bants, mate, like just banter, but that was really shitty. It's not banter. If you're verbally attacking another person and no one but you finds it funny, on the surface, it may not seem as bad as other situations people may have here, but the caller's cruelty was endemic of the culture of that company. That last sentence was way too complicated. But essentially, a boss or a colleague said something that was kind of rude in this person's eye, and that guy who was working hard to lose weight just didn't like it, found it disappointed, and resigned. So, what do you think about this situation?
I think the word is callous. So it's a callous cruelty. So it's just a shit decision that the person made. But anyway, I think the boss is a bit of a joker. I think the biggest thing is this guy the one that's actually eating the chocolate. He's obviously made fucking heaps of effort to lose the weight to begin with. So he's obviously weight conscious. He's conscious about his self-image and things like that. So for the boss to get away with no flack, as in didn't get in trouble, is quite surprising, but I'm not surprised at the same time because he's the manager. I find that his colleagues, the ones that are under him, that work under him and obviously are in the trenches, probably won't say much or won't approach the manager because obviously the mentality is, hey, this is my manager, I work for this guy. But I think the biggest thing is yeah, for sure, I would definitely have a chat to my manager and be like, hey, mate, that was a bit uncalled for and he shouldn't have done that. And I would have explained the reason why. I would have been like, mate, this guy has worked his ass off. He's self-conscious. You shouldn't have done that. You should have done better.
I think coming from a perspective of someone who has had a diet, what's it called, was sucked into this diet culture, like as in I was in that position, you need to be able to read the room and know when to, like, yes, there is banter, but at the same time, when you banter, you gotta know where you can take this joke with certain people. And also, I feel like it's really irritating and frustrating for me to hear someone like that was calling him fat for eating chocolate. Because, yes, he did work hard, but just because he's working hard, he's trying to lose weight, doesn't mean he can't enjoy chocolate. Because now you're just showing to everyone who's trying to diet means that you can't enjoy foods that you want. Being healthy is about having balanced diet. So maybe he's worked out so hard and this is the one time he really wanted to enjoy chocolate, really wanted to eat something he wanted, and you just did that to him. That's kind of, to me, really disappointing.
I definitely would have approached the manager and told him why and said, hey, mate, that was uncalled for. He shouldn't have done that. He should be more conscious of the people around him because, hey, man, when you're a manager, you've got to consider your colleagues' feelings and how they think as well because they're the one that are essentially in the trenches doing the work.
Yeah, and also, like, work or not, like, this is that person's personal life. He can eat whatever he wants, whether or not he's trying to lose weight or he's trying to lose weight. Like, him eating a chocolate is not your business. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just annoyed at that. And also, what I was going to say is maybe you, as a commenter, could, like, not saying that you were in the wrong, but an idea is you could have gone and talked to that guy who was eating the chocolate and be like, hey, like, how are you going? How are you feeling? Maybe you have done that. But also just to, like, encourage him to speak up about it or even go to someone, maybe above his boss, to bring out this issue. Like, yes, he resigned, but like, just from reading from this, I didn't have any context, but it just feels like nothing got resolved and he just moved on. So I feel like it's kind of like he got the shorter end of the stick about the whole situation.
Yeah, so I would do the similar thing as the previous or story where I would document it and obviously present that to someone that's superior and see where that goes.
From that, I wanted to add a question because I know that for you, Sam, in your work, you always talk about like there's banters and you're like, it's normal. This is like banter. I'm not saying this type of comments, but like there are things that you throw around, you joke around, and can be quite rude, but you kind of just, it's funny. And then for me, sometimes I'm like, I don't know, like I don't feel like that's I don't feel like that's something you should joke about. So what constitute as banter and what constitute as a joke, like in your eyes? Like where is that line when you cross it?
That's actually a good question. A joke to me is if you actually saw something happen and you made a comment and you said something stupid, and then at the end of it, you said, "Hey, I'm sorry, that was a joke."
I don't know. Like sometimes people, like not saying you, but other people could be like, "Oh, I was just joking," but it's like them protecting themselves when they weren't really actually joking. They were actually giving them shit.
So there is a borderline as to what type of conversation you have or what type of banter you have. And I think as long as you're within the same boundaries as each other to have that conversation, then it really depends on the particular individuals in that group to define what's a banter, what's a joke.
Yep. I think a lot of this, like understanding it is hard because it's a lot of social cues. It's a lot of understanding the other person or the group or the room. So again, reading the room, and I think it crosses the line from being banter to being rude is when other people feel uncomfortable. So if you can tell other people are uncomfortable or unhappy or feel disappointed in what you've said or what you've done, then that is becoming rude. But if it's banter because you're actually like with your work bestie and you already know how they are, you can say things that are quite rude, or you can even make that same joke where you're like, "Oh, you're eating chocolate again, you fatty." But it's like you guys just talk like that. It's kind of like me and you. We talk like that, and that's because we know each other. Then that's okay.
Yeah, the development of the relationship is obviously number one because then you will be able to obviously define what the boundaries are in terms of conversation and what's defined as a joke and what's defined as a banter. That's something that you develop over time of building that relationship.
Let's give this boss the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he just did actually say something wrong. And if that guy spoke up about it and be like, hey, sorry, I really didn't like how you brought that up, and the boss said sorry, then, let's leave it as that. But if the boss didn't care and just kept making the same type of jokes, then that's rude.
Yeah. All right. So this next one is a bit of relationship slash career.
Mm.
Title for this one is, am I the asshole for giving my boyfriend a reality check on why he shouldn't give me career advice?
Ooh.
All right. So it begins, my boyfriend, 29, and I, 26, have been together for 7 years.
It's a long time.
We both worked at a grocery store together for the first 2 years and made very little money, but we were happy. Even making the same amount of money, he still had trouble saving for bills, and I often helped him pay his part. My boyfriend said my attitude and behavior changed once I got a tech job and started making more money than him. I have been hard on him in the past because he couldn't pay for his half of the bills because he would have had enough money if he actually saved for it. I feel like he's always leaned on me to take care of things when he doesn't have enough money. I've been patiently hoping he would figure things out, like he says he's been trying to since we first got together. He still works at a grocery store and his mum helps him out financially oftenly, a lot, that it seems.
Great English.
We bought a house about a year ago. I paid about 90% of the down payment. I pay more of the utilities and mortgage on the months he hasn't had enough. I pay for everything or anything we want that he can't afford. I make all of these choices because I love him. He says he would do the same for me.
All talk, no walk.
Currently, I work for a startup that has downsized and the business is in a rough spot. My employer is currently not able to give me a raise I deserve and keep me full time. I have agreed to continue working part time for him, but at a higher rate. This means that I am able to make the same amount of money in 3 to 4 days of work per week instead of 5. I've had health issues essentially from working 40 plus hours at a desk, and it's stressful. So this change gives me more time to improve my mental and physical health and enjoy my hobbies. My boyfriend thinks I'm crazy for wanting to work part-time when I could be making so much more at a new company full-time. He asked me if I would be mad if he decided to not take a better job offer because his job gives him more free time. I said, that's different because I already make enough for us to live comfortably, and the only difference my raise makes is we would be more comfortable but he does not make enough to live comfortably even by himself. He suggested I was being lazy. He knows I'm stressed and in pain from working 40 plus hours, but he still tried persuading me to do so. I ended up losing my temper. I said he's in no position to tell me what to do with my career. He wouldn't have been able to pay his bills without me. I pay for most of our house and that he shouldn't be pushing me to make any more money when he can't even make half of my salary. I admit I said some hurtful stuff, but I have reached a breaking point with carrying the heavier part of the load. My boyfriend has been overly critical at me at times and complains a lot. If he was more kind to me on a daily basis, I probably wouldn't have snapped on him. Am I the asshole for giving him a reality check?
Well, first of all, I want to say, you go, girl. You tell him how it is, because it sounds like you've been carrying him this whole time. And yeah, there might be some hurtful things that have said and could have been worded better, but you've told him what the situation is and how you feel. And it sounds like it's something that has been carrying on for a long time, and it's been bottling up eventually and getting to this point. Plus, being in a similar position where I feel tired and burnt out, to get the same amount of salary for part time, like, why not? Like, why is he so offended by that?
Anything else you'd like to add to that?
You're not the asshole. He's the asshole.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think he's a prick in this conversation. I think he's in the wrong. And you've been putting up with it for way too long, 7 years with this particular person. And you have been doing a fair bit of weightlifting for this guy.
Well, even the mum had to
Even
do
the mum,
some
yeah.
weightlifting, so that
Yeah.
kind of shows what he's doing.
I think, to be honest, you need to fuck him off, hey? Yeah, just flick the bastard away. You don't deserve a guy like that. He's obviously not ambitious, and for him to sit there and say, hey, you're working part-time, you can earn more money to support me? Nah, fuck that. Get rid of him.
In the bin.
That's right. Put him in the bin. Yeah, don't waste your time. You deserve that break, and I think working part-time and get paid the same, fucking why not, man? That's smart.
Yeah.
Take the break, work less.
It's not really the break, but it's like the boyfriend that has been leeching off you the whole time. Now, to know that you have health or mental health struggles and challenges and not see that and be like, hey, wait, you're not earning enough money and then we're gonna suffer, or I'm gonna suffer. That boyfriend is not even looking into your own happiness and your own well-being. So that says a lot, and to me, that's a massive red flag, and that's a big hell no from me.
Yeah, that's it. End it. Get rid of him. Done. Get rid of him.
All that aside, I think the big part that stood out to me was when she said that they both worked at the grocery store together. They weren't earning much, but they were both happy. Just that comment, without much of context of how they are and how they were in those early years, it just shows that sometimes money isn't everything. Like, if you earn nothing, but you guys are on the same page, share the same values, and enjoy the same things, it goes such a long way. And clearly, like, just from a logical side of things, it just sounds like the girl has outgrown or changed in terms of life projections and career direction, and all that has eventually slowly grew away from the boyfriend.
Yeah, so they're not aligned, essentially. It's a bit of a shame because, life is all about progression, and for her to progress in terms of the tech and career growth to earn more money than him, and he's obviously lacking and slacking and not able to maintain himself, it is a shame. And sometimes it, like you said, it's just the differences that happen in life, and I just think it's time to move on with this guy.
But the only other question that I have for this girl is, why did you agree to buy a house with someone who doesn't have enough down payment, or have that discussion in terms of how you guys will pay for things financially from here? Like, yeah, understanding that maybe at that time you earned more, but it's like just bigger than that, the talk about financial, like sharing the financial situation and what are we going to do, and having an understanding, because I think that would have helped her kind of see where things would be going and get the feel of what might happen.
The question is if his mum had to help him pay his bills, that's a big question that you've got to ask yourself is, well, is this guy committed? Is he financially committed? And is he capable of actually making the intent of paying bills and things like that? And it seems like he doesn't. It seems like he isn't. He is not willing to change. It's been 7 years and he hasn't really changed.
Yeah, so
So
there were things that could have been asked or questioned before going into making that financial commitment, so that might have helped that girl understand and see things before it got into buying a house.
yeah. And look, understand that you love him and whatnot, but it's a matter of a question of, hey, are you okay to deal with someone like that? That's really a question you've got to ask yourself.
Yeah, it's easier said than done from someone or us being outside of the story. I know that as that person being in the story is probably a lot harder to decide on what to do and where they should go. But just as a third person perspective, you can definitely see all the signs of it being unhealthy.
Yeah, I just think, what are you doing, mate? What are you doing when you're getting your freaking mum to help you pay your bills? That's just like, man, come on, man.
Yeah. All right. Another am I the asshole for being supportive when my cousin quits her first 2 jobs. So the story is I'm in my 30s and my cousin is a teenager. She had her first job a few months ago at a local coffee shop and they were blatantly breaking laws and around how to treat employees. She quit and got a job at a diner. And that place was even sketchier. She quit on the spot when her boss wouldn't help or boot a creepy guy who kept coming back. Her parents were mad she'd gone through 2 jobs in as many months and asked me if I talked to her about her work ethics. They wanted me because I'm an executive at a tech company. I busted my ass to get there and they know it. But I told my niece I was proud of her. It's a skill it took me years to learn to bounce when a job was doing illegal shit or putting me in danger. Not having done that quickly enough as a young woman had put me in dangerous situations myself. I thought the best career advice I would give is to go in every job with eyes wide open. See it for what it is, and if you don't like what you see, then get the hell out ASAP. And she already understood that without me even needing to tell her, and that I never regretted getting out. For every place that was sketchy or dangerous, there was another who'd up my pay and treat me better. And by seeking out employees who were fair and ethical and respectful, I positioned myself for advancement. Because there's no amount of work that will advance you at a job that's openly hostile to you. You're a dead end staying there. And my career really started advancing when I seeked out employees that respected their staff and invested in their education and advancement. So after talking to her, she felt a lot better since she'd been feeling like a failure for quitting. And we even put together a resume for her to start looking for something better. But her parents were mad and they didn't hear the whole conversation. And also, my uncle called me angry, telling me I was trying to raise his daughter to be a quitter. What the hell? This is so stupid. And he said he wanted me to talk to her about the value in hard work. He sees me working night and weekends all the time. And I was like, yeah, because they literally pay me 20 times as much. He got really pissed off hearing that and told me it was inappropriate to teach his daughter the exact opposite lesson he asked me to. Am I an asshole for getting so defensive about the advice I gave?
Fuck no. You're definitely not the asshole. I think they're the fucking assholes. It's just a lack of communication and ignorance in this case. Now, obviously, not knowing the full context, I think if we dial it back, there's got to be a massive conversation to be had with the parents and the uncle. I think that's
I think the
one.
uncle is the
Okay, well, the uncle, parent, whatever. I think that conversation has to be number one priority because they have their shit twisted. And I think if we sort them out through that way, then at least they can be on the same page. I think it's really good that you had the conversation with the niece. Is it the niece?
cousin.
Educating your cousin in that way. And obviously you're teaching the wrongs or your experiences that you went through that you don't want that particular person to go through it in their timeline.
Well, I just feel sorry for the cousin, like to have parents like that and for her to already say that she feels like she's a failure and she's a teenager. Like she hasn't even had a proper career yet and to feel like she's already failed, that's kind of sad for her. But I'm glad that she has a cousin like this girl who commented because we need people like that. And just out of all the conversations we've had on this episode throughout, it just sounds like there's a lot of shit people out there and it is true. But to have this one person that can give you proper advice and give you their perspective and actually think in terms of your own well-being and your own emotions rather than being what's right, what's wrong, what's like where you progressing, and like anything that's just title based, like it's good to have people like that. So I think definitely not the asshole, and really need more people like this person.
Like if I were to look back in my younger self, I wish I had someone that was like that who could sit me down and say, "Hey, man, don't do this," or if you're in this situation, try to think like this. To have somewhat a mentor in that regard, dude, that's a massive plus.
Mm. In terms of how to get around it, I don't know, because things with family is such a sticky situation, especially for the cousin. Like that is her parents. You can't exactly just like a colleague, you can't just like, ignore them or just not hang around them. Like you are living with them. So it's a difficult one, especially even for this girl who the 30-year-old cousin that's giving the advice, like that is still family and you will see them.
Yeah, I mean, I see it differently. It's pretty simple in my eyes. First and foremost is really having that conversation with the family, and obviously making a clear distinction between the two, as in you have that chat with your cousin and say, "Hey, look, your parents aren't happy because of X, 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 and this is my perspective." And then having the chat with the parents, because they need to understand, what your thoughts and what you're coming at, as opposed to what their daughter is feeling, because at this point in time, their assumption is the daughter's obviously not working hard and she's not really trying. But that's just a lack of knowledge. They just don't know what really happened.
Mm.
So I think if you sat down and actually said, "Hey, look, this is what actually happened with your daughter. This is how it basically got to that point. You've got it twisted."
I think it's also giving them a different type of reality in terms of, yeah, I did work hard. I did put in like 40, 50 hours a week, but I was working in a job I want to work at. So, say this tech company and becoming the executive. I'm working in a job that I want to. This, I'm just assuming that this cousin who's a teenager, maybe she's like, the diner, what was the other one? Some other shop. Like, these aren't things, like maybe it could be, but these aren't things where it's like, oh, I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. She could be just doing that because she wants to earn some extra cash. So, the work ethics between that, where you're just getting a job for the sake of getting money, as opposed to you working in a tech company where you're really looking to stay there and move up, these are also very different places as well. So I think teaching her hard work through these two different circumstances is not correct.
Yeah, you can't make that direct comparison. They're just totally different industries, different timelines.
Life stages too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think have that chat with the parents, and you can't make that comparisons between you and the younger cousin.
And also, like, what's important? Like, this is your daughter who is being harassed, or this is your daughter who's not being looked after in her work. Like, do you really want your daughter to be working in a place like that? Surely not. And if you do, then you're a screwed up parent. And yeah, like, it's just bring that, like, work aside. Like, do you really want to put your daughter in a dangerous environment?
If I was the parent of the daughter, I definitely would not want my daughter working at a fucking place that has
Yeah.
some stalker looking dude trying to tune her up. You know what I mean? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Case solved.
Lucky last. And what this one is, am I the asshole for choosing my career even though my family will disown me? Is she...
Bow, bow.
It says OF. Oh, right. So I, 21, female, just graduated university. I come from an immigrant family that is very traditional, and our culture heavily disapproves on moving out until marriage, especially for the women. I had good grades and a great amount of extracurricular that made for a great resume. Because of this, I was able to secure a great job offer that involves moving around states for 2 years. This job also has a great salary and is at a very big company. I asked my professors for advice and decided this was the job for me. The problem is my parents would not approve of my decision to move away. For context, my relationship with my mum has always been rocky, with the worst being a month ago when a fight with my mum led to her saying, "I will control your life. You can cry, kill yourself, move out. It will not make a difference."
Dude, what the hell? That's annoying.
Out of anger to this, my response was, "Fine, then I accepted a job and will move out in June.
I would have done the same.
Now taking the job, my parents are convinced I'm simply doing it to get away from them and that the job is not worth moving away and that if I take it, it's to be shameful. I've explained multiple times that my moving away has to do with the job opportunity, but they don't seem to care. Instead, they'll prefer that I get a job here, even if it pays less. I love my parents very much and they have supported me through my years in university. I work, I pay for my own car, and I pay for rent. But my family also means the world to me when I think about life without a family. It seems lonely with no culture or events. The problem is not only is this a great job opportunity, but my parents are also very strict. I have to be home by 9. I can't go on trips out of town with my friends. I'm not allowed to date, etc. So moving out and living on my own is a dream. It's now less than 2 weeks before I move. I have a plane ticket booked. My parents are still insisting that if I choose this job, I will no longer be their daughter no more. And no one will ever speak to me anymore, including my siblings. That's pretty fucked up. It's been weeks since trying to get them to change their mind. Most recently, I told my dad that I'm still planning on taking the job offer I wanted and will be moving in 2 weeks. Again, if he said, if I go, I'll no longer be his daughter. Since then, my parents have been continuing to act like I am not moving away, including making plans with my cousins months from now that included me. I am not sure if they are in denial or think I will change my mind. I'm starting to get really scared for when I start packing and reality hits them. I fear it will get much worse and they will not let me go. I'm starting to think I may end up regretting my decision and having no family to return to. So am I the asshole if I choose to take my career over my family?
So, first of all, me being my personality, I would have just moved. And it's not in a way of being like, screw them, I'm going to move, never talk to them again. I don't care if I lose my connections with them. It's not that. It's just that this is your opportunity. Your life is yours. You're still young and this is a great opportunity for you to work for yourself and do the things that you want and you even said that you want that. So if something like that is stopping you and you're only choosing it purely because of love, but also thinking of context of how they're not really supporting you, like saying like the mum saying things like, I don't care if you kill yourself, like you don't say that to your daughter. So I'm just like in my head, I'm just thinking of Gary Vee, how he's just like, fuck your parents, fuck your friends, the ones that don't care about you, do what you want to do and just go for it. And aside from that, like aside of the like whole fuck you mentality, it's even if you go, maybe that distance might help you grow a better relationship with your parents because then they may have actually realized that, okay, you can actually live on your own, you can make a living, you can do things for yourself because you're already paying for your own car, your own, like, was it gas and everything like that. So you're mostly already living independently apart from just living at home. So I would just go for it and yeah, it's going to be scary. It's going to be in the unknown because sounds like this person's still really young, what, 21. So still early days, but sometimes you don't know until you go for it. And to avoid the whole scary situation about when time actually comes and you have to move, me being the strategist, I would actually slowly already move some stuff over before this 2 weeks. And in the end, the only thing I need to move is myself. So less things to worry about and see you later.
Nice. Good summary. I would just stick my fingers up. See you later. I'm fucking out of here. No, but on the serious note, I can understand, family is a big thing. And especially if it's a traditional type of family where culture and events and things like that, like I get it. But at the same time, it's your life, man. Like you got to build your life to how you want to live it. And to have and to hear your mum say those kind of comments, that's pretty fucked up. I don't agree with that. I think you're just restricting your child to whatever you think is the best thing. So look, at the end of the day, this is for your opportunity for job development, your life. So fucking just send it, go. Family's always going to be there. Yes, they're going to be upset, but it's going to give them a reality check as to, hey, look, you're an adult now. You're supporting yourself financially. You don't need them. Just go.
Yeah. And like the worst thing is for you to be like, I regret not going. And then like thinking of all these what ifs. Like if I took this job and I could have gone to this place or work for an even bigger company, like you don't want to be living with regrets. Some of the biggest regrets of people that are dying is that they didn't go for these opportunities. So don't be 90 and regretting that you didn't take this opportunity, or for the risk of maybe your parents not talking to you for maybe 6 months, a year, whatever it is, and just taking it to the next level. Like, say you moved and they really did cut off all communications and you've tried to reconnect or done all that you can. As sad as it is, maybe it's not a relationship that you actually want to keep. Not saying like keep forever or keep away forever, but it's not something that you want to keep close to you because they're not essentially supporting you in any way apart from just manipulating you, controlling you. And you hear this in relationships, like romantic relationships, but if it's happening in your family as well, to me, that's not worth it because in the end, that is your own emotional well being, your own health, your own mentality that is being hindered as well because it is you're part of this relationship. And if it's not making you happy, you will be disappointed and you will be sad and frustrated at times. And that's not something that you want to keep having near you, especially when you're trying to progress in a career.
I think what you could do is you could sit down with them and actually explain to them exactly that. Just tell them, hey, look, I'm doing this because it's not because I want to be disowned by you or I don't love you, but it's about me. This is my life. This is my job opportunity. This is my growth, and I need that. And it's not just a job thing. It's your life experience too. You moving away, that's your self-development. You as a person, as an individual. So it's really important that you seek and take this opportunity. I'm sure there's people who would say, look, find something that's closer or retain the relationship with your family. Yeah, sure, you can do that. But that's an opportunity that you probably will miss on.
I think the next question is also when you sit down with them, it's like, what are your concerns? Like, why are you worried about moving away? Is it really just because you can't see what I'm doing or know what I'm doing? Or like, what are your concerns so you can truly understand why they are worried or why they are unhappy with you moving away so that can help you understand them?
Yeah, and if they're traditional old heads who are stubborn, there's nothing that you can change, and that's just how it will be. And yeah, ultimately, the decision of yours is going to impact you in the future.
Yeah, there are ways to work around it, like people who are quite traditional, but yeah, you just got to find that balance where you can work with keeping them somewhat happy and you doing what you want to do for yourself as well. So that's yeah, just a lot of questions, a lot of understanding each other and just seeing how you can work through it together as a team.
I think if you're really valuing your family and you are considering and not taking the opportunity and finding something that's local, make the comparisons. Compare the local market, the industry to what you can find locally to home as opposed to you moving into a different
Well, I
state.
think she did find stuff locally and it's a lot less pay.
Well, outside of pay, like growth wise, is there much of a difference between?
Well, I think it's just like because the opportunity is just something that you can't give up and it's a big company, but she has to move for it.
Yeah, I would say if it's a big company, then that's something that's on your resume, man. That's a bonus.
Yeah.
So
Nothing is ever set in stone. Everything's always temporary. So just give it a go. Like, give it a go, see how things are. Could be
yeah,
rocky for a little bit, but once the dust kind of settles, maybe it could turn out better than you expected. And if not, there's always a way around it. And yeah, either way, I think just go for it. I would not give up an opportunity
yeah,
like
man.
that.
My thoughts is throw them fingers up, get out of there, do what you need to do,
It's like
get that
that cat
opportunity.
meme.
Yeah, I was gonna say Slim Shady. Slim Shady puts the fingers up. Just do that, man, because that's an opportunity. Yeah, you're gonna learn so much from.
Mm. And being a female as well, I think sometimes it is hard because in a family, you kind of feel like that responsibility. You feel like you need to listen to your parents and you need to be that good image, like good daughter. So it is hard, but really just put yourself first. As long as you're being respectful to everyone, you've explained your part, you've tried to understand your parents' part, you've done all you can. Anything that's outside of your control, you can't control it, but you can only do your best in what you can in the situation.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed our little Reddit for careers and relationships. something different, but it's a good interaction as to getting our alternative perspectives in terms of the situation.
If you have any other interesting career situations that's happened to you, let us know because we're actually keen to know.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Peace.